guys, welcome back to Ashar Books. I'm here to do my mid-month wrap-up for May. I've read a lot of fun books and I'm excited to talk to you guys about them. So the first book I read this month was The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. This was one of the books I read for the Chick Lit-a-thon. I don't know if I'm going to do a wrap-up just for that, but this was one of the challenges. This one's the conclusion to the All Souls trilogy. I've been reading it since October and I really enjoyed this. I can definitely see how this is a series you either love or hate, but I fall on the love side. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely very heavy on the history and kind of the mythology and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. I'm definitely a big history nerd, so I like that part of it, but I could see how maybe people wouldn't. I thought this was a really fun conclusion. The character development of our main characters was great. I just love seeing how far they came, especially Diana, from the first book to the last, and Matthew too. I mean, some of the storylines were a little bit melodramatic, but I kind of ate them up. I liked that kind of thing. So I gave this 5 out of 5 stars for the conclusion. I really enjoyed it and I'm really glad I read it. The second book I read this month is Jack Rowe by Sarah Nye. This is her new series, so I loved her douchebag series and this is her new one. This follows baseball players on Jack Rowe. I'm actually not sure if they're all baseball players in the series or if it's just different athletes, but anyways, this series, or this story, follows Scarlett and Rowdy. I think it's a nickname, but basically Scarlett goes with her friends to a party one weekend on Jack Rowe, and the guys in the house kind of think she's kind of keeping them from getting with the ladies, and they kind of just need her out of the way because they apparently can't, basically there's like a whole storyline where like the guys are telling pickup lines and she's just like, that's not gonna fly, and so they've got her kind of out of the way. So basically Rowdy gets voted to babysit her on the porch, and basically they come back every Friday for like a month because they just really love talking to each other and kind of learning more about each other, but they don't really admit that at first. They're just coming under pretenses of like, I'm protecting my friends, which I mean, I'm sure she is, but not really. I loved this. I thought it was such a good kind of new adult sports romance in a really different way. For a lot of the books, Scarlett and Rowdy are the only characters you really read about. There were obviously side characters, but for the most part, like, they are the sole focus. And I thought that was really fun. I mean, so much of it takes place on the porch. But I thought it was great. I gave it 5 out of 5. I just couldn't stop reading it. Sarah Nye's writing is just incredible. It sucks you in. It's addicting. And I don't know. She just knows how to write banter. The two of them were hilarious. And I thought it was really fun. If you're looking for a new adult, definitely check this one out. The next one I read was another new adult romance that had to do with sports. And that was The Hardest Fall by Ella Mays. Maisie? Not sure. This one is a little bit different. It follows a girl who is living in an apartment and a football player who's kind of the star of the team. He's the wide receiver. He has very lofty aspirations for the NFL, and basically they end up living together in the apartment. That's why I said that. But they end up as roommates under very interesting circumstances. And basically it just follows them. This is a very slow burn romance. I will say that. Like, if you want something more fast-paced, maybe don't go for this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars though. I thought it was a really, really well developed book. I really enjoyed the characters. There's a bit of a mystery aspect running throughout this with our main female character, and you're kind of trying to figure it out. Only reason I took a star off, honestly, is because I did kind of figure out the whole mystery thing pretty early on, as well as, you know how I mentioned it was a slow burn? I felt like in this one I was a little bit like waiting for it to hit. Like, sometimes slow burns I love and I feel like, oh yes, like we're getting all this juicy stuff. This one I was like, okay, I know where the end is, but I kind of want to get there a little bit faster. And so, but I still really enjoyed it. If you're looking again for another new adult, because I hadn't read any good new adult sports romances in a while, so these both were really good, and this one has to do with football, so there you go, football and baseball. The next book I read was Blame It on the Duke by Lenora Bell. This is book 3 in her, I think it's the Disgraceful Duke series. I thought this was book 1 when I started reading it. Not that it really matters because these are kind of interconnected, so it doesn't matter. It just kind of mildly spoils like couples for yourself, but I loved this. This is the first book I read by Lenora Bell, and it will not be my last. I really, really enjoyed this. Basically, it follows our main characters, Nicholas, who's Lord Hatherley, and Alice, Tombs? So basically our main character Alice has kind of been sending away suitors left and right. She really does not want to have anything to do with these suitors, and she has these plans to go abroad to India because her father is in the trade business. Well, her mom does not want that. She wants her married. And then Nicholas, Lord Hatherley, basically his father is, they call him mad. I feel like it was probably dementia of some kind because that's really what it seemed like in the book. But his father is kind of gets away from his caretaker and goes to a gambling place and basically gambles away his son. So basically the guy asks for his house and he says no, but he says, you can have my son instead. So that's how Nicholas and Alice basically end up together. It was really fun. It was really funny. Basically Alice is working on, transcribing this text. I'll let you guys find out what the text is because it was hilarious, but I highly, highly recommend this. It was so funny. If you're looking for a different kind of historical, definitely check this out. I gave it 5 out of 5. The next book I read was 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake, which is our book for the book club that I am co-hosting, the Swoony Reads Historical Romance Book Club. So I'm not going to really talk about it now, but if you want to have all of my thoughts about it, definitely join us for the live show. We are planning on doing it on June 6th at 7:30. I believe it's a Wednesday? I believe it's a Wednesday. So if you wanted to talk more about it, definitely come join us, but I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'd read other of Sarah MacLean's books, but this one was definitely one of my favorites. I really, really enjoyed the character, the main characters, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it. The next book I read was Lead by Kylie Scott. This is book 3 in the Stage Dive series, and these books are so fun. If you're looking for a rock star romance with just really phenomenal characters, definitely check this series out. I didn't read Deep, I just read Lead, but it follows Jimmy, who's basically the bad boy of the band, and in the previous books you kind of saw him kind of hit rock bottom. He was on drugs, he was drinking way too much. So basically now he's kind of on the up and up, but he kind of needs someone to look out for him, so they hire an assistant, but really it's kind of a babysitter named Lena to kind of come on in the house with him all the time and babysit him. I think we know where this is going. But even though it's kind of predictable, I loved it. I thought it was so great. I loved Lena. She was feisty and sassy and curvy, and I just thought she was great. She had kind of been handed some, you know, kind of hardships in life in a way, and I thought she handled them really well, and I loved Jimmy. I have to say, he was the one out of the band I didn't know if I'd actually love because he was such an awful person in the first 2 books. But Kylie Scott really did it, and she turned my opinion around, and I really love it when authors can do that, and by the end, I was just a melted puddle for him. I really, really enjoyed the book. So again, I think I gave it 4 out of 5, but it was amazing, and I definitely recommend for a rock star romance. So the next book I read was Misadventures of a College Girl by Lauren Rowe. This is in the series of the Misadventures, but they're all standalone. So this is the first one I read in that series, and I really enjoyed this. I give this one 5 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. Again, another college football book. I think I just had a theme this month for some reason. I was like taking a deep dive into the college sports romances, but this was really, really fun. It follows Zoe Cartwright, who basically starts at UCLA, and she kind of wants to get rid of her virginity. Like, she just wants to get rid of it. She doesn't want to have it anymore, which I feel like is a little bit like we've seen before in books, but I felt like the way this was written, I really enjoyed it. Because she kind of, basically she starts off at this party and she's like, I'm just going to find the biggest, like, kind of man whore around, and he's just going to help me with this situation. In comes our lead character, Tyler, who kind of does fit that description at first glance, and basically the two of them meet, and one thing leads to another, and they kind of like have a bit of a situation. I'm trying to be a little vague here because I don't want to like give the plot away, but basically it ends up Tyler taking her on and kind of in a bit of a like, he's going to be her like teacher kind of way, in the ways of love, I guess you could say. I didn't, like, when I read the premise, I wasn't sure I'd be in love with this, but I really, really enjoyed it. The writing, again, was really well done. I loved the characters. I thought Tyler was one of those characters, again, when you first meet him, you're like, okay, I know exactly who this guy is, but there was so much more to his character, and it really was a don't judge a book by its cover type situation. Same with Zoe. I just felt like she was very relatable, and I just, again, thought this was a really well done college sports romance. It was funny. So yeah, I definitely recommend if you want something in a college romance. This was definitely pretty steamy though, I will say that, so keep that in mind. And the last two books I read this half of the month were both in the same series, and that was the Royal Scandal series. So the first one is Royal Affair by Parker Swift. You didn't think I could get through this, what do you call it, Royal Wedding Month without reading some royalty reads, right? So I'm a sucker for a royalty romance. This one is not like a prince or anything. I believe he's a duke, or he's about to be a duke. So basically this follows our main character Dylan and Lydia, and they meet when she's kind of nannying these kind of wealthy couples kids at this summer house in Canada, and that is Dylan's family owns the house. So they meet there, but most of the story takes place in London. And basically, I loved Lydia. I think she was my favorite part of this. She, again, had a really tough upbringing. Her father had been sick, and she'd had to take care of him for a long time, and kind of gave up her kind of youth in a way to help take care of him. So she's kind of on her own path now, and she wants to be in fashion. So she's going to have a fashion kind of like internship, I think it is, or fashion job with someone in London. And so they basically meet briefly, but then they meet again in London. And Dylan is basically one of the most like kind of notorious playboys in England or in London. He's, like I said, he is royalty in some way. He's a duke, and he does not want a relationship. He basically just wants to have a no strings attached situation. And Lydia is not so sure about that, but she really likes him, and she's trying to kind of break away from her normal self. So she's like, okay, we'll like give it a try. And I really enjoyed this. I will say, this first book, I only gave 3 out of 5 stars. I loved the characters, and I did like some of the plot. I felt like more could have been done with it, and I honestly felt like there were too many steamy scenes. You know, I don't mind them, but when they kind of start taking away from the plot, that's when it bothers me, and I felt like it did in this book. But I would still recommend this series because I read the second book and I really enjoyed the second book. I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars because I felt like all those things that I kind of was missing from the first book showed up in the second book. You got more character development. They kind of toned down the steamy scenes so they fit better in the story. I love seeing our two main characters, Dylan and Lydia, kind of grow together. In the second book, you really just kind of see more about them, their backstory. So I definitely suggest this series, but just know if you're not in love with the first book, maybe give the second a try. Okay guys, so those are all of the books that I read so far this month in May. Let me know what you guys are reading. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about what you're reading. Let me know if you guys are planning on joining the book club, the live show on June 6th. We would love to see you. Definitely let me know. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.